Hello, everybody, and happy Wednesday. Today, I have such a treat for everyone. And as I told you last week, we're pivoting into the love sector. And I wanted to kick off this show and this group of interviews with the amazing Susan Hum. And she is the love hacker. She has developed a formula to help all of us singles to apply this formula to attract love into our life. And Susan, if you could just tell us a little bit more about what you do and how you got into this space and how it served you in your life.
Oh, Jennifer, it's so great to be here. My gosh, we've been talking about this for a long time. I'm so happy you're going into the area of love. There's not enough out there, not enough of us out there. Because one of the things that made me really want to work in the area of love is because, I've been in the personal development industry now for a few years. And I've always wondered, if personal development is so fabulous, why are there so many singles that don't have control over attracting love or healthy love into their life? Or even worse, giving up on love, right? And to me, it's like such a heartbreaker for me, because the only thing that has helped me achieve high levels of success in my career is because I've always had that carrot of love at the end of it. So I've never given hope on love. And I've dated well over 100 men in my 10 years single. But I've also recorded exactly how things happened during my time single, right? And so when I finally met my husband after 10 years, I know exactly how I did it and how he came about in my life and exactly the mechanisms that took place. So now it's like, man, that was easy looking back. Of course, in my years being single, I never thought I'd ever find the one, but I never gave up hope, right? But the fact of people telling me that they've given up on love and that they're happy being single, I don't buy it.
I don't buy it either. I'm happy on my own, but I'm happier when I'm with somebody.
Yeah, you see, language is one of the things in my formula that I teach people. Be careful of the language that you have inside of yourself, right? And so to me, it's like, oh, don't ever give up on love, guys. It's easier than you think. It's only difficult because it's a blank slate. And there's a lot of pain involved that you have to work through in that journey. The disappointments of not meeting the one right away.
I love when you said like to use those experiences as experiments. I think that's the word, the verbiage that you gave it. And it stuck in my head because like, when newly into dating and I just, sometimes you learn every time. So it's essentially, if it doesn't work out, it's kind of like a love experiment, right? To see like how because I was scared to go back into it, period. But you learn each time, like, to better prepare you for the one, right?
Yep. It's actually the whole journey of attracting the perfect love into your life is purely self-mastery. It's the journey that's leading you closer to your certainty about you. Isn't that the greatest thing? And the side effect of all that is great things come everywhere else in your life. Because abundance is love.
I love that.
Right? If we close our heart off to love, and for whatever reason, you're scared of it, or you're tired of it, you're not inspired by it, your heart closes. And guess what? Isn't that the center of abundance attraction?
Abundance is love.
Exactly. And abundance only comes when your heart is open.
I love that. And, Susan, you inspired me to take this next step. And although it was like a little bit scary to dive into like a new space and interview couples and, just have the confidence to try and do that efficiently, you were my complete inspiration for that idea. So I just want to thank you for that gift. And I just want to ask you like about your relationship, because I know it means so much to you and you always talk very highly of your relationship. If you could just share with us, like how you developed that relationship and how after 10 years, like you said, like you found that person. And I have a few questions to ask you regarding that, but how did you meet him?
Oh my gosh. That's why they say never think that you're going to figure out how it's going to happen. You don't know. You just don't know. So I followed my formula throughout that time. So I had my list specific, and I was very adamant about my list of exactly the type of man I want. I didn't know what he looked like, but I had a type, and I stand by my type. I always knew I was going to marry a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy, right? Always. I dated everything on Earth, including Martians from other planets, but married and my type, no. I've always. So he was exactly that. But the thing is, I met him when I was doing my business travels. I was living in Singapore,
Cool.
and I thought, okay, I'm meeting a Brit. That I love Brits. I love Brits. Brits on my list. That's how specific I was. And so because I was surrounded by Brits in Singapore and Hong Kong, and so I thought, oh, I'm going to marry a Brit and we're going to travel the world. And no, I meet this guy in Montreal, where I was born and where I ran from. And I said I was never coming back. And I meet him here. I'm like, this is not good, right? And he's a Brit. But the problem is I didn't put it on my list that he should have an accent. My husband does not have an accent. I'm like, oh, how am I to know that I have to put, he has to have an accent, Brit. Anyway, just to make a long story short, I had to leave it as is. It's a wash. He's a Brit. I should have put accent, but if I had to do it all over again, maybe I will put accent, but I haven't. So, but yeah, I met him here, and I was trying to not fall in love with him because for me to be with him, because he had a 2-year-old son at that time, if for me to be with him, I would have had to give up my successful career and everything. So I went through a journey of all out Sex in the City, like on fire dating to get him out of my heart, right? So I said, okay, I'm going to fall in love. I'm going to be open now. I'm going to fall in love somewhere else, not here, right? And after 6 months of trying to get him out of my mind and my heart, I had to give everything up and come back to Montreal. And I didn't even tell him. I didn't tell him.
So what was that moment? Like, sometimes we just like, it just hits you and you're like, yeah, this is right. Like I have to do it. What was that turning point? Like, was it something you thought about? Like, was it something he did? Or you just...
It was all me. It was all me. Like I knew he was committed in his heart, but he couldn't be committed verbally because he was going through separation and all that kind of stuff at that time. So it's not like it was an easy transition. Like I didn't walk into something that was in a package of easy, right? But when love is there, you can't deny it. That's why I couldn't talk to anybody about it, because I'm like, this is weird, but I got to follow my heart. And I didn't even tell him I was coming back for him. I came back, I went back to school for finance and just did my thing so that he can sort out his stuff. But there was a turning point. I was dating at that time, like seriously dating 6 guys, 8 guys for that 6 months. Trying to fall in love. No, I'm trying really hard to fall in love now. And I remember it was May 31st, 2003. And I was with a guy named Dan at that time. And he called me over at midnight. He was just on his way back from Australia. So I said, oh, yeah, I'll hop in my car, and went to his condo. And we were just having dinner at midnight. And I remember we were just laying on the couch, chit-chatting at 3:00 in the morning. And I remember him trying something, and I just got grossed out, right? And in my mind, I'm like, I knew what it was. It's because in my heart, I had already given myself to somebody else. So yeah, at that moment, I just looked at Dan. I'm like, I can't do this. He's like, what the heck? What's your problem? Like, what's going on? I'm like, and I gave the worst single line ever.
It's not you, it's me. respond to that though?
I felt so stupid saying, but he's like, I don't get that. He's like, like, how, anyways, and he's just looking at me, and he's like, "Is there another man?" And I'm like, "No, well, no, not really. Like, it because we didn't have a relationship yet, right? I just knew he was the one." So, anyways, that was the last moment. May 31st was the last time I was with another man.
Wow, that's beautiful.
2003, yeah.
Oh, so I could see what you're saying, and I understand that. My question is about your husband. What was your first impression of him like? Like, did you feel that right away? Because you know how they say like, oh, you meet the person you just know, or like love at first sight. What's your feelings on that?
We met at an Irish club, a bar named Finnegan's here, and he worked for my sister's company. He's a lawyer. And my sister warned me because she brought me to her company party because I love suits. I love suits. I mean, guys that wear suits. So anyone with a suit, my sister's like, she's like, oh, the suits are in town.
Oh.
So yeah, I'm there. And so I walked in, and my sister made me promise something. It was so hilarious. My sister is very conservative, right? And she's like, okay, Susan, if I take you to this party, you have to be good. You have to not make out with anybody, don't pick anybody up, and don't get picked up. I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it. I'm just gonna go hang out. So anyway, so when I sat down, he was sitting right beside me with another guy that I knew from her company. And the one thing I remembered was I've never met anybody that was so energetically present when I spoke. So I knew he was listening to every word. He cared about what I was saying. Like, you could just feel when somebody is present and they're not trying to talk over you. They're not trying to impress you. And it's very rare that I see that.
That's huge. And for everyone listening, for women, that presence with a man, like that man being present, like that's like, I would say the top. What would you say, Susan? Isn't that like the top quality that we just love? Like we melt over?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like just to be fully present.
Yeah.
Like
it's somebody who actually really wants to understand you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They want to be in your space to understand you so that they can deliver to you what you want. And that's really, I mean, I've been out with so many men. And I felt that kind of, but not on this level. And he's quiet and he's an intellect. So I like that geeky professor like type, right? Yeah. So that was my first impression. That first night I met him.
So that X factor, that quality that you liked, was that on your list?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, beautiful.
He met everything on my list. Yeah, except for the fact that he had a 2-year-old child and he was going through a whole massive thing. So when I found out that he had a 2-year-old, that's when I shut myself down.
Got it.
That night. And then
was that a deal breaker one?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. No, I didn't even have that as a deal breaker. I never thought of me meeting somebody that would be in that situation. Like it didn't come because, when we're young, I was 32. I'm not thinking about people divorcing, right? Like, not many of my friends were divorcing. They were all still single or newly married, right? And nobody had kids.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. And my next question is, how was your level of communication? Like I already know that he was a good listener, but how was your communication together? Was it good from the start? Did you have to adjust? Like I said earlier, sometimes like in a relationship, we develop that it's like you almost have your own language. How was that for you guys from the beginning?
Yeah, well, we had to learn how to communicate together, right? Because he's analytical, so he likes to take his time and think about things before he says it. And I just blurt everything out, right? And so he had to learn. He had to teach me to learn how to just have silence in between, so that he could have time to put the words to his mouth. Whereas me, it's like boom, 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 boom. It's like, and I would get impatient, and it would stumble him. So we really had to learn to respect the type of person he is versus who I am. And I learned a lot in my relationship coaching or singles coaching through my own experiences, learning through all this.
Beautiful. Wow, that's amazing. And, would that tie into boundaries? Like, is that something that we could relate to, having boundaries, like with ourselves, in our relationships? Like maybe that was a boundary for him to have that time to process what you were saying, or is there anything else you could share with us about like having those boundaries and respecting others' boundaries in relationships?
Yeah, one major boundary I had to learn with regards to him was, and I think this is a lot of men are like this, and a lot of my clients are as well. When men are really focused working, because he works from home as well now, right? So he's in his office and he's really focused working. And I would just walk in and start talking about emotional stuff, and I'd sit down, and then, and then he would kind of get like a little bit frustrated, right? Or he would just put everything down, and then he would have a hard time getting back into it. So I had to learn how to respect his space when he's working and say, is this the right time? Can we talk? And if he says no, I have to respect it, right? Because it's hard for them to get out of focus and then go right back in again, because men have so much on their shoulders with regards to financial stability, their work, their career, to bring, to make sure the family's okay. Whereas women, I could be working and then you could walk in, it's like, oh yeah, no problem, working, like nothing, like we don't care, right? So that's a big thing with men and women on boundaries with men. Women, the boundaries are to say no without guilt. Right? To don't feel so obligated to try to do everything for everybody. Because if you don't respect your boundaries in terms of how much energy you put into it, what you start doing is expecting that person to give it right back to you because you just depleted yourself.
I learned that lesson.
Yeah. It's a typical one. But the boundary, to me, boundaries is when is no means no. Like if he tries to tell me to go and I don't know, jump and do something, and I'm not ready to do it yet, and I say no, don't try to guilt me into something.
Love that.
Right? And so this is where you learn. But as a woman, I have to say, you know what? When I say no, I mean no. And then I will explain, and it's teaching me why my no is so no. Is it really a fearful no, or is it a no meaning it's my values, right? So those boundaries teach us to hold within our values. And over time in a relationship, when you're learning how to respect each other's boundaries, you're also learning what are values and what is like just limiting beliefs from the past.
And, you really helped me earlier because we were just chatting about a situation and, about having clarity. And, this has been a big grow for me personally, is like, because, you asked, like, she asked me a question, like, why do you think it didn't work out? And I gave her a broad answer. And she's like, well, that's not why. Like, what's the real reason? And I said it like that. And it's like, and you said to me, well, if you don't address that reason, the real reason, you're going to keep repeating it, right? Because you're not giving yourself that clarity on what you don't want or what you don't like.
Yeah. And that is another thing about boundaries, right? It's like boundaries is your truth. Boundaries allow you to stand in your truth. So why is it so guilty for me to say, well, I don't want somebody who smokes? And it's so funny because a couple of my clients recently has said, it took me a half an hour just to get it out of them. Like, I don't want somebody who smokes pot. I'm like, oh, well, okay. Why didn't you just do that? Right? It's like, well, I have friends that smoke pot and I have smoked pot and I don't want to judge. It's not about judging. Your value system is you. There's no guilt to it. If that's what makes my heart sing, and Like, why do I have to be guilty? It doesn't mean you're judging people that smoke pot. But if you don't want a husband that smokes pot, fine. I had to marry somebody who is adamant against smoking and pot because I over smoked on every angle possible. So I need somebody to stop me. Not because I have anything against smoking pot, you know? So it's like we have these perceptions around guilt.
Yeah. Hmm. So you talked a little bit earlier about standing in your truth. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that means?
You know, my truth is actually expression of whatever I feel at that moment without being told I'm wrong. You know, so really truth, when somebody stands in their truth, they are able to freely express while consciously being aware of how it will affect somebody else. So when I say something to my husband, like, I don't know, this still happens. We're not perfect, right? And I state my truth on something, and he's like, and then he's trying to convince me that I'm wrong because he has another opinion. Well, I stand by it, and I'm like, well, we agree to disagree then. I don't care what you think. This is how I think. Doesn't have any bearing on how you think, right? And sometimes he's a lawyer. Sometimes he hates it when I go outside of logic because I operate in complete magic. I operate completely in a gray area where there's no wrong or right. There's no, there's no, nothing. Like everything is accepted, right? Right. It's true. It's like, so you don't believe what I believe. I don't care. I respect what you don't believe. Like, really, that's okay, right? I don't need to be right. I know I am. I don't need you to be my right. Like that. I live in this gray area. It's beautiful. Like it's not like there's no judgment here, right?
Mm-hmm. You're just observing. Yeah.
You're just being. You're just being with people, and when you're not in that gray area, then you could hear. So in a marriage, you have to sometimes sit in that gray area because they're them, and I'm me.
I love that.
Right.
And I wanted to ask you, so when did you know that things were getting serious with you and your husband, and how did you guys move forward with the relationship?
Oh, by the time I met him, was ready for serious overnight. So if he wasn't going through his divorce situation, he would have proposed within probably 3 months, right?
Whoa.
Yeah, it was that fast because, I mean, after all those years of me being single, believe me, I know myself so well. And so when his divorce papers came through the mail, the next day he proposed. Yeah, he waited until it was physically appropriate, right?
Wow.
So yeah, it was really quick, but I was ready for quick. I was ready. I knew what was right. So when you meet the one, it's the one, and after that, it's just working through the relationship together towards a common dream. It's only when you're not certain about who the one is or how it's right, because you're still defining what is right or wrong to you. So there's nothing wrong. If Jennifer Dalton tells me, "Oh, I met the one, Susan," I don't know about that.
Oh,
it's the one for now. It's the one for now until you grow together. And if both people don't grow in the same pace, or one person chooses to stop growing while the other one goes, that's the point where you need to really have that conversation. It's like, maybe it's time. And I've had those conversations even with my husband. It's like, because I'm on a fast growth all the time. And that's the problem with being a coach too. So when you're working with clients, you're coaching yourself at the same time.
Absolutely.
So you're fully right. So we've had those conversations. It's like, are you still with me? Like, even though you're not beside me in that pace, but you still got to be with me. And we would always have those conversations.
And how long have you guys been married?
13 years now. So we've been together since 2003. Yeah. So 13 years. Yeah. It hasn't been easy. It's not, well, first of all, it's not easy being married to me. I know I'm difficult, but no, I am.
You're wonderful.
I have. Being a lie detector sucks. That's why it's like it really sucks. I always tell people what you don't know won't hurt you. Don't try to go know everything. Just let it come to you. Because what's meant for you to know will come. You don't need to go and search out every information and knowledge because too much information is toxic because you're going to create stories with all that information.
Mhm. And you're
So
gonna find, you'll
yeah.
find it if you're looking for it.
Yep. So hey, I'd rather be dopey. I do. I would rather be dopey.
So my question for you regarding like recipes for success, what do you think the secret is to make a marriage work long term?
Open communication and just be self-aware enough that when you are starting to feel something that it's not because of the other person, you need to be aware that you're starting to get triggered and work through it. And relationships and marriage is everyday learning, every day for the rest of your life. Right? But you can make learning an inspirational thing or a painful thing. That's it.
So like for me, like I remember, I've had a lot of experience in relationships and long-term relationships. And, my last relationship it didn't end because we didn't love each other. It ended for, circumstances out of, our control. But one of the biggest lessons that I learned was, learning how to fight, right? And you could say something that makes you like that you're annoyed about, like in a playful way, but you're still getting your point across. Or just not to take it like so seriously where it's so like, it's like, it's so serious because like you could laugh about a lot of it, right? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, after the fact. Right. But, fighting or disputing is very healthy. Right. And so my two brothers are calm and I don't think they've ever fought in their relationship or marriage. And they look at their two sisters and we are like volatile, right? and that's because we're always trying to have that most fulfilling relationship. We don't want even keel. We want to really deepen it. So the more you want a deep relationship, the more you will push each other past those limits, right? You will push each other past those comfort zones and challenge what you thought were your deal breakers. And that makes you feel good. Like I've had to be challenged on those deal breakers. Like I had such a black and white concept about lying, right? But what he's taught me deeply is people don't intend to lie. They just
that was like the light bulb sound. Did you?
Yeah, I know. They don't intend to lie. So I can't. And being married to a lawyer, I've had to learn how to legally cross-examine him. So, but they don't intend to lie. So you can't knock somebody if they don't know and they're not aware and conscious of what their lies to themselves are doing.
Wow, that's huge.
Right? So because of that, you're not blaming the person. But people don't intend to lie.
I love that.
They don't.
That's one for me that I put on there. Like I don't like that. I don't like when people lie but that's interesting that you say that. And my question,
we do it to ourselves.
Yeah. My question to you is like, is it maybe like that manifestation? Because I know you're like the queen of manifestation, and like, is it that? Because like, I know like when I made my love list, I'm like, I'm not going to put anything negative on there because your mind, your subconscious, if I'm looking at that list every day, odds are like if I put something negative on there, it might, your subconscious and the law of attraction doesn't know what's good or bad, right?
Yeah.
Can you just maybe tell the audience what a love list is for those that don't know, and what your feelings are about putting not negative things on there, but things that you don't want on that list.
Yeah, because that's NLP, right? The universe doesn't know not or negative stuff. So if you say I don't want somebody who drinks a lot, then the universe doesn't see the don't want. They just see drinks a lot. It's very simple, right? That's why if I don't want somebody who drinks a lot. My husband is a wine connoisseur. He loves to drink, but he doesn't need it. He could go 6 months without it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I love someone who knows wine. But I didn't put on it that I don't want somebody who drinks a lot because I drank a lot, right? And I don't want me. So I put on the list that I want somebody who has control over themselves, that is self-controlled, right? So, and their value system is more on healthy, purity, that type of thing, right? Whereas me is like, I don't really care about that, right? So that I can have a balance, but you have to put it in the positive sense. But your love list, right, cannot be 200 things on it. Start with maximum 5 or 6 core values.
Oh, shoot, I have 10.
Well, you know what? Make sure that that out of the 10, there are a couple of them that can be lumped together in one subject, right? So let's say somebody
that
says,
would be part of the clarity, right? Like the details of.
Yes.
Beautiful.
I've seen so many lists that says, well, I want a loving relationship. Well, don't bother putting it on there because who doesn't? Don't waste the space on fluff. So what does a loving relationship look like to Jennifer? Right? You have higher demands than the next door neighbor. Right? So what does a loving relationship? You know what? A loving relationship is somebody who has compassion towards mistakes.
Oh.
Somebody who's not a perfectionist. So somebody who is understanding and compassionate, right? Because you don't want to be judged. That's brutal for you, right? So you see how you twist it around? So for you, is compassion a core belief? Is that something you have, right?
That's interesting. That's my other question. It's like, where do we get this idea of like what we want? Like, where does that come from? Like, is that what? And my second question, sorry, I have so many questions, but is like, is it like who we have to become? Is that part of it, or?
Well, I think we all have a dream life of what it would be like to share it with somebody. Right. So I was just talking to somebody else yesterday about it. And I was telling him, he says, well, I just want somebody that will love me. I said, okay, well, that goes without saying. Another redundant thing, right? It's like, okay, so what does it look like? Like, you come home from work and you open the door and you smell food and she's cooking for you because she's thinking you've been working so hard, and even though she works hard, she's still making dinner because she just wants to be thoughtful. And like, what does it look like?
Because you don't want just anybody to love you. Be careful what you wish for.
Well, yeah, well, first of all, it shouldn't even be part of a wish. It is a given.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that loving relationship? Is it somebody who just sweeps you off your feet one day and just takes you into a car and you go hiking and without even any plans and you guys go on a backpack? That would drive me crazy. But hey, like, do not just pluck me off my seat and take me hiking without nothing. So, but hey, for you, that could be the most beautiful thing that you would love, right? Define it. And how you get to that refined list is through experimenting. Right? It's not theoretical. Whenever clients have to work through the list, I always tell them, bring me the data. Bring me the data. If you're not dating, how the heck am I supposed to tell you what's wrong or right for you?
You know, I had put something on my list and it happened and I hated it.
You see?
like sharing your wins at the end of the day. Like, I just did all my day. I don't want to talk about that anymore. I want to focus on, like, do you know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it'd be nice to have someone to share your wins with at the end of the day. And then once I did, I was like, I hate this.
You see, it's amazing, right? Because I had another client. She wanted somebody that she could study with. And she ended up meeting that guy. And in the morning, they wake up. The first thing they do is they take the books they're studying and they would sit down with coffee and just read together and talk about it. That would drive me nuts. I don't want to be in personal development when I'm with my husband. Thank you. Thank you. He doesn't need to be there.
It's amazing. So I respect you and love you and just know all the great work that you've done in this field. What are some like key points that you could share with all the singles out there that you've learned? And I know that you were, working on a couple of projects to help, especially in self-development. Is there any key points that you've learned that could help people find love with that formula?
Yeah, there's one key thing that a lot of people miss out on is that when you think about dating, does it make you cringe or does it make you excited? And if it makes you cringe, you're not going to be attracting good dates.
Whoa. Okay.
Well, because that's the law of attraction, right? Whatever the feeling is on that activity will give you the result. Same thing as going into online dating. I'm not a proponent of online dating because of the actual act of it, what it does to your subconscious. The swiping.
I hate online dating.
Yeah.
I've been on one date.
Yeah. You're just looking at a picture and reading the profile. That's not enough. How many nice, amazing guys did you swipe through because you weren't able to hear the voice or listen to the tone and the way that he speaks or she speaks? If I would have looked at my husband online, he would have been swiped 20 million times over.
Wow. That's so interesting.
Yeah, I would never, ever have, never. So it's not good for the subconscious. And it's also keeping you on a very superficial level as well.
Mm-hmm.
Go out and meet people. Start introducing. We got to get more communities. That's what I'm going to be doing, is creating communities of singles, conscious singles, right? And it's like a Facebook, but away from Facebook. I'm done with Facebook. But creating a whole new social platform for people to just come in and just hang out and be single and talk and post inspiring things. If you saw a guy posting an inspiring thing and he made a comment on something, it will like trigger, right?
If a guy teaches me something, yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah, exactly. So you just never know. That moment can trigger something, right? So that's the only thing, is just know that if you ever wanted help in this area, there is help in this area. No one is alone. It's a very lonely road if you do it alone, because you don't know what you don't know.
I love that one. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any advice for me in interviewing these couples? I'm so excited. I have a number of beautiful couples that I can't wait to dive in and see what's made it work for them, and just seeing their journey. Is there anything you could give me advice on in bringing that out for everyone to learn from and grow with?
Yeah, you know what? I always want couples to talk about at what mindset stage were they when they first met. Like, not everybody had done the work that I did when I met my husband. Some people hadn't. Maybe they're at the point where you're at, where you're learning about yourself. And how did they work through the marriage and relationship, right? So looking at the different levels, because it doesn't mean you have to be at my level to meet the one. You can meet the one tomorrow that's going to serve you to your next levels. You know what I mean? So really see where they come from in their mindset when they first met, and how far behind or what the discrepancy is between the two people, and how the one person is stronger led the other one up, and that kind of thing. So, and also, how do they overcome challenges, emotional challenges.
Can you give me an example of how you guys in your relationship you overcome like emotional challenges?
He knows I have trust issues. So, well, had, but now, I mean, we've been long time together. So I would lose my cool if my lie detector goes off, right? So because he knows that, because I tell him beforehand what the problems are, he's able to mitigate through it. And over time, we come to that middle point. But if I never tell him what the issue is, and we don't find what that core issue is, then we're sort of just bumbling in the dark, and pain is pain. But when there's a pain and purpose, that's the magic.
I love that. So it's that clarity. I feel like clarity has been such a word like for this interview, and this, what I've taken away from it is just those details and that clarity and knowing what you really want and knowing what really might upset you, and your partner knowing that to work through it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not for our partner to try to figure everything out. We have a responsibility to communicate our heart.
Mm. And it's so funny. Sometimes I love TikTok, and I love like the videos. I'm trying to study it so I could produce better videos to share. And I love some of their loved ones. And a lot of times like they show ones that talk about how like men don't read our minds.
No,
And
bad at it.
why do you think women hold back like some of those feelings or thoughts, or telling them what they want, or telling them what's wrong? Or because like, a lot of in Tony's interventions, like you see, like once the woman says like what she wants, or what the guy's just like, please just tell me, like it's and once he knows, like you see it right away. You see like the switch.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
she's in her vulnerable loving, and he's in his like, yeah, like why do you think as a culture we don't provide that information and make it easier? Like it seems simple.
It does seem simple, but we've lost connection with our heart. Because and this is not something that was created after a marriage or relationship. This is lifelong patterns. If a woman has issues with saying no to people, it's because they're fearing rejection, or something that like they're not being accepted or belonging, right? So when they go into a marriage, they're going to lose track of what they ever want, because you don't know. If you've never practiced on defining, expressing what you want before the marriage, you're not going to get it any better after you get married, because then you're even in more protection mode, and because now you have somebody every day is looking at you like you're crazy, So it's like, I call it re-injury of trauma, right? Of wounds every day. So, the ability to state what you want is practice. Start by your friends.
That's
Before
great. I love that.
Yeah. If you can't do it with your friends, you're not going to do it at home. And if you do it at home, you'll do it with anger that it's going to throw the other person off, because you're fed up. So if you can't do it with your friends, yeah.
I love that. And lately I've been thinking of like how important it is. Like I think I know my next relationship, like I want to develop that like beautiful friendship with that person. How like, I don't know how many mothers say to you, like, become friends with the person before you marry them. Like, I think, but is there like something in your experience, like if you're friends with somebody, do they somehow maybe go into that friend zone, or like, what are your feelings about that?
Yeah, don't go too much into the friend thing, because there has to be chemistry too, right? So learn the balance of playing. You're really flirty, so I'm not too worried about that. You'll get bored if it's like turns into a freaking interrogation. But
flirty?
Oh yeah, girl, I got your number. But always try to see how many why you can ask. Like, you want to know
Ooh.
why they do the way things they do. You know, you want to know why they have chosen or made the choices they have made in life. Who cares about what?
Love it. That's
Right?
beautiful. Mm-hmm.
And that's where you stay connected in the heart all the time. And you can still be friends. Because no one really asks people, so Jennifer, why did you choose love? Like, why did you choose this as the springboard to what you're about to do in the world? You know? You
I
can
feel like
answer.
love is the foundation to everything. It's the for me, it's fuel.
Mhm.
You
Yep.
know, I put love in every single thing I do. Why not focus on it?
Yeah. It's because you want to share a part of you now with somebody.
Mm.
You shared yourself with the world already. Now you're ready to share it with that person. And that's beautiful. That's what love is. It's sharing our hearts.
Mm-hmm. Well, Susan, you have been literally the inspiration for this, and I cannot wait. To be honest, I was a little nervous, but I just want to thank you so much for always being somebody I could look up to, and gives me this great inspiration, and I can't wait to dive in.
Oh, no, you'll do great. And I know you and I are going to probably be doing something together at one point or another because we need to collectively bring this knowledge and work with people. There are a lot of people that have given up on love or are not inspired by it. And we can't have that.
Yeah, I agree, and
So
I love that.
you. Thank you for taking this type of work to the world because this is the best work ever. Best.
Okay, well, I'm ready. And I have my first couple, everybody coming on Sunday, and we're going to go through some of these questions. So I hope you tune in and you find value from this. I love you all. Susan, I love you so much. Thank you. And you will see us real soon.
Love
Have a great
you.
day.
Bye.
Ciao.